thanks. Wow, you guys laughed at all the funny stuff. Woo! Yeah. Fanning was back there going, oh, they actually understood I was joking when I made that legal comment. I was like, yes, they understand. Thankfully. Thank you so much. You were really an awesome audience. I hope everybody gets everything like that. Isn't Gene Conn like the funniest thing on the face of the earth? I mean, I loved him today. He's not alive anymore, unfortunately, but he was an amazing character. Because, I mean, so much of this for me was so much about how much these guys got where things were going before they went there. I was going through the archival, like, how did they possibly know that this is what was going to happen to the world? But, should I bring them out? What do you want to do? Yeah. Let's, without further ado, Sean Parker and Sean Fanning. This is an a cappella number we've been working on. It's I Disappear by Metallica without any instrument.
I thought we were doing Until It Sleeps.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's what we've been arguing about. Yeah.
You know, it's funny, this is so heady for me in a funny way because I've seen the movie and of course I love it, I know it intellectually, but it's something to kind of be backstage, kind of on phone, sort of thinking about people that change the world that we live in today. So it's kind of an amazing thing. Thank you for being here. And it's kind of, you've been working on this for so long. Talk about that, like when you thought, like, I know this is a story and I'm going to stay on it. You know?
I met these guys a long time ago when Napster was basically over, but was in its end death throes. And I was a big Napster user and really felt personally when I first got on in '99 that for those of us who were dabbling with the web, this was such a radical jump forward. It's really hard to describe what a revolutionary change it was for all of us who were beginning to get online. And for me, it was like a global community. I remember when I first met, I was like, that's what I loved so much about it. And it was just a story that I really felt needed to be told. It got so, Middlehoff puts it really well. I think that the perception of Napster was very misleading in the press, and I just really stuck with this until I felt like whether anyone agrees with us or not, we're going to get the story out there. So that was my backstory to it.
And this is your lives. How are you feeling? I mean, it's such a complex, long time, you know, 90 minutes, give or take. How are you feeling about this particular version?
You know, I think this was something that could have been told many different ways, and I think going into it, it was pretty unnerving given how many different phases there were. And
it was 12 years getting this thing.
Yeah, and actually, I think I kind of came out of it feeling like Alex had a better sense of vision and understanding than either of us did, based on the results. So thank you for sticking it out.
Certainly than either of us recalled.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
It's weird actually watching it with you guys and seeing it beforehand. It actually felt like watching it from the outside. I mean, so much of it was a blur. I think, you managed to kind of wade through the bullshit and find the kind of essence of what it was about. And I don't think I could really ask for a better job. So it was cool.
It's a complicated story that could have been told from very easily from one perspective or the other. And to make a documentary that really kind of gets you a sense of the historical context, where it's all ended up, but also tells sort of both sides of the story in an objective way, I think is difficult to do, especially to do in an entertaining way. So coming here, I wasn't totally sure how the audience would react to it. It seemed like everybody was pretty into it. Woo! The guys sitting in front of me were really into it because I was whispering to my fiance and they told me to shut up. This is working out well.
We can open and we can take a couple of questions from the audience, sure.
So obviously there's a shot where you see Keith Lawson wearing a sticker and the credits have some about
The question, you want to repeat the question?
Okay, I don't mind, yeah. We shot in Austin, we did a panel, Sean and I did a panel last year. Jana, it's very nice to have us come down and we did a 5-minute clip of the movie, which is the first time they'd ever seen any of it. I just remember them, I was just like, I was actually mortified. But I came down and shot some interviews because it was just always stuff to grab. So I got Aaron Wadamoose, who's Aaron, raise your hand, there he is. There's the man right there.
What's up, Aaron?
I shot Aaron here, and I shot the panel itself, which we were able to put online. for me, it's like the movies should be a conversation starter. It's definitely not the end of anything. You know, no one's making a proclamation. So I want to use that panel. It's all them talking, and it's great stuff. And then as the movie rolls out, there's a lot of other great material that we have that we're going to roll out with the movie. So that's the other reason I wanted to shoot.
I like that you say that you were mortified at that trip. I had to watch my 18-year-old self on screen.
That's why I was mortified.
No, mortified would have been us watching Bill and Ted.
That's true. True. No, yeah, mortified would have been you playing air guitar in my face for, yeah. But the night is young. Okay.
Yes.
Alex, you accomplished something in film that I have done. Is that actually there's a thread of both Sean's caring about artist rights. And the way it was spun in the media was that that wasn't an issue. So I'd like to ask the two of you. Today, there's another film here called about the pirate. It's a very different kind of story. But how do you see the new technology today actually delivering the impact, not corporations, not the artists, to the individual creative person with the new technology, some compensation?
Well, so everybody can hear it. It was just the idea is that the film showed that they had a sensitivity to artists, which the media didn't talk about at the time. So the question is, how do you feel the models are now, really, in terms of for indie artists, sort of possibilities that way?
I'll make a short comment first. I think one of the things I forgot about, but we really refused to take any revenue. I remember plenty of pressure to take in money, even for t-shirt sales and things like that, until we could actually share it. So we actually stuck to that, and you know, I think that said something. The point about us not wanting to cooperate and suing us made me laugh. But you know, ultimately, I think Sean can comment on this. It's been over a decade, and I think there's been some progress. And so some of the stuff with Spotify, and if you want to take that, I think is actually.
I mean, there was another thing historically that I don't think was pointed out in the movie, which was that we could have very easily done video sharing where most of the content would have been user generated. We could have done like document sharing, like you see a lot of companies. Exactly, we could have hidden behind the other content types and probably kept the service running. But the reason we stuck to music was that we were huge music fans. And that was something that never came through. In fact, there was such a campaign on the part of the IAAA and the labels and various artists who were upset with us to represent us as, to demonize us and represent our perspective as something totally different from what it was. If anything, we were like, you know, these poor, broke, college-age kids that were, if anything, more like the people in bands than the people running the record labels.
And in the public, I think it seemed like, you know, a pretty even fight with a lot of people upset. But I had maybe 2 interactions with people, with artists, where they were actually mad. Every other conversation was always positive. So that seems sort of surprising to me, where it felt like maybe more of
I had to pull that guy from Creed off of you.
I don't remember that. But
Yeah, that guy gets pulled off a lot of people.
The question is, these are stories of how our times have changed. Will they make them in the history books?
That's a toughie. I mean, I think that the reality of it is that there are huge sweeping changes going on in the world right now culturally and in terms of the flow of information, and that is history. There's absolutely no doubt. I mean, history book will be an ebook. It'll be pretty easy to ship around to your friends. You know, you can add to it if you want. You can make a wiki out of it.
This is the next movie. There are no more history books.
That's actually the moral of the story, is that, yeah, there's no more record history or books.
The red shirt, go ahead. Yes.
So 2 years ago, you predicted what we'd get today, got very close. Using that same foresight, what do you think that's in 10, 15, 20 years?
The question is, 10 years ago, they predicted very closely where we'd be today. So where are we 10 years ahead? What's up?
you don't want to know.
That's downloaded too.
It's a dark, dark, ugly, dystopic world.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
one of the challenges with music, and this was really confusing at the start, looking at search engines, they index the web, and then if something's infringing, they have the opportunity to take it down. If they had to go and get permission to index every website, we wouldn't have search engines as it exists today, and Sean mentioned that about the DMCA. So from our standpoint, it seemed like there had to be some resolution, but for whatever reason, music was being treated very differently, and a lot of that had to do with the stranglehold over distribution and promotion. I think the fact that it's hard to innovate in the music industry and provide something new and valuable without getting permission and getting authorization and playing by those rules is very unfortunate, because every time I see an entrepreneur working on a digital music startup, I just tell them to run. And it's sad because the passion for music is there, but I think certainly things have improved a lot.
There's a silver lining in this, though, which is that Spotify started to make some things happen with streaming music. Spotify now has APIs that allow web-based streaming music. Google is following suit. Pretty soon you're going to probably see Apple going into those markets, and these are really well-funded companies that are able to subsidize the free access to music. So a lot of the restrictions, and you can now set up a music blog with Spotify links or YouTube links or Google's forthcoming service. You could set up a music blog and talk about music and have a conversation about it without having to go and seek licenses. That wasn't possible. And even 4 years ago, that wasn't possible. So the economic models that support free and open sharing are getting better and better, and luckily these large companies are willing to subsidize that experience.
Something that was eye-opening to me in looking how Spotify handled things, first of all, starting outside the US, not worrying about the US first to prove the model, made a lot of sense, but also
Sweden!
The idea that they would just embrace the fact that they would always be in negotiations with the labels, that there was no resolution, that they would just assume that was part of the cost of doing business. That if I knew that was the case, I wouldn't have signed up, but that was I think, a wise point of view, and I think that's helped them to kind of, make it as far as they have. And so I think that's part of this challenge is we'd love it to be just like every other part of the internet where you can just have a great idea and have it succeed on its merit. But I think there's still, as I think Ron Conway said in the movie, it's still not nearly as far along as it could be. But hopefully maybe somebody in this room will fix that.
We're gonna take one more, but what's so great is that for those of you that have film, gold, or platinum badges, or interactive badges actually, is that we are lucky to have a panel with these guys Tuesday at the Long Center, 11 a.m. 11 a.m.
It's a little early for me.
But we have a whole hour with them for a conversation, which is just fantastic. There was a guy all the way in the shirt, but the black shirt, in the middle and the back.
One of the highlights is that fantastic teenage interview, which is obviously a local television interview or footage.
Unfortunately, that was CNN.
We tried very hard.
Did they tell you about that? Did you stumble across it on research? How did you find that footage?
What, the archival stuff that's in the movie? Well, I wrote this movie as a narrative originally about 8 years ago, and I started pulling archival then. So I found most of that footage back then, and it comes from a lot of different places. A lot of it actually comes from MTV News, who were at the forefront of covering this story. And that's one of the reasons I think that it took me so long to get this movie made is people were kind of shockingly ignorant about downloading and these new technologies even 6, 7, 8 years ago. A lot of news services weren't even that interested in the story, or if they did, they were interested in a very kind of hyper polarized view of the story. Like, these are these young pirates, this is this industry, and that's all you got. So it was funny. That's one of the reasons I've kept this thing in the Viacom family. I did this with VH1 Rock Docs, who were awesome and made this movie with me and the guys. And before I was working with at different strands of MTV, and they had just been at the forefront of actually treating this as a real news story. So there was a lot of coverage there. I mean, just thanks. I mean, really, really grateful for you guys coming out. This is an awesome group of people, and just as always, humongous thanks to these guys because obviously they're.